point out that the sun shines down its power to all the world and makes the wind blow strong as it will. I wonder how gentle rains can fall upon the land, so lovely earth can stay lovely still. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 529th edition of Energy Week with George Harvey and the amazing Tom Fennell, the Invisible Man.
In the flesh, but not in the studio.
In the flesh, but not in the studio. Every day I go find whatever news there is about energy and climate change. It goes up at my blog, geoharvey.com. And once a week, Tom and I do a TV show based on what's put up there. Usually 3 items for each day, 21 items a week. And so we start, we're recording today, which is July 3rd.
Oh, we're doing June 22nd.
That's right. We're starting at June 22nd. We're actually recording on July 3rd because the studio was closed last week. But the end date for our news is June 29th. So we're starting at June 22nd. And if you are confused, don't worry about it. We are too.
I was just going to say something about confusion, but I think you said it.
Okay, we're going to start on the 22nd. We've got some interesting news this week. Okay, we're starting on the, I should mention, if you want to read these articles, you can go to the blog, geoharvey.com, go to the date, click on the date on the calendar, which means you might have to go back to last month, or you can go to one of 2 things that are listed lower if you're watching this on a computer. There's a link to the website that Tom and I used to prepare for this, and that has links to the original articles. And there's also
what we're talking about here is condensed, tremendously. So if you go to the original sources, some of them are wrong, but they're all worth pursuing.
Yeah, they are. You can also download the text file, which is text and pictures for this, and that has live links in it too. Okay, so we're starting on the 22nd of June, and I'll just go. We have a picture of wind turbines. I think that you mentioned that, Tom.
I think I did. There's a whole bunch of wind turbines right there.
Yeah, there are.
Look like they're out to sea. Can't really tell.
I think they're in mountains. They're distant mountains there, and they're blue. Anyway, this is from CBS News.
U.S. solar and wind generated more electricity than coal for a record 5 months.
Yeah, United States solar and wind power hit a new record this year, generating more power than coal for the first 5 months. Now, coal was
king.
King, absolutely. First 5 months of this year, according to preliminary data from the U.S. EIA, which is the Energy Information Administration, it's the first time that wind and solar have outproduced coal for that amount of time. And
record 5 months.
A record 5 months. And my guess is it's just going to continue because coal plants are being closed down all over the country because they're inefficient and too expensive.
I was just going to say, it's the economy, stupid.
Yeah, and renewable energy is being added, and no coal has been added for 10 years now. So
that's so expensive.
Yeah, it's something. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that coal was, most of our electricity was coming from coal. And it isn't true anymore.
I was looking at a show the other day. It was a movie.
Yeah.
And it took place in New York City.
Yeah.
You saw a picture of the island across, it's across the 59th Street, around 59th Street Bridge. And it was all chimneys.
Yes. Yeah.
Con Edison had about 5 power plants out there.
Yeah.
Now there's nothing there but storage and solar.
Yeah. Okay, should we go on?
Can't dance.
Okay.
A nice butterfly here.
We have what?
Nice picture of a butterfly.
We have a nice picture of a butterfly. That is a female monarch butterfly, in case you're interested. Yeah, very pretty. You can tell it's female because the black band at the bottom of its wings is rather wide.
Is that so?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's right.
Yeah.
CNN provided this. What do you got for a title?
Biden administration looks to reinstate protections for endangered species curbed by Trump.
Yeah. A proposal to restore the strength of the Endangered Species Act was announced by the Biden administration. It would repeal certain Trump-era rules that weakened protection. The proposal would reinstate a base level of protection for species. And of course, the reason we're looking at a monarch butterfly, I rejoice when I see a monarch butterfly. When I was a kid,
They were everywhere.
They were everywhere. They were everywhere. And, people didn't allow milkweed to grow up in their yards. So milkweed, if I went out into near the farms and wasteland that was along the railroad tracks and things like that, I'd find milkweed.
Well, these guys love milkweed.
What's that?
These guys love milkweed.
Yeah, they need milkweed. And people in Vermont and other parts of the United States are allowing milkweed just to grow in their yards because they want the monarch butterflies to come back. But this is a fight because we've got, not just has the milkweed been decimated, but we've got insecticides and things like that around that are just not good for anybody. So
a little yay for Biden and a little boo for Trump.
Yeah. All right, I'll go along with that. Okay, our next picture is a wind turbine, I believe.
Looks like to me.
Yeah, there's another wind turbine in the background on the right, quite a long ways away. This is from Wyoming Public Media.
Long-awaited power line project breaks ground, bringing renewables to a fossil fuel community.
Yeah, federal and state officials broke ground on a 732-mile transmission project. 732 miles. Wrap your brain around that in Wyoming.
That's bigger than Vermont.
What's that?
That's bigger than Vermont.
It sure is. It's bigger than 2 Vermonts. The power line is to transfer electricity from the 3,000 megawatt 600 turbine Choke Cherry and Sierra Madre wind energy project. And it goes to basically almost the southern tip of Nevada.
Well, 3,000 megawatts is 3 gigawatts, and gigawatts is bigawatts.
That's right. That's a lot of electricity. And given, the way they're going to do that is that this electricity is going to be transferred to southern Nevada, and then the power gets stored there. And they were, I don't know if they're still planning this, but it used to be that they were planning to store the electricity as compressed air in caverns.
Did we talk about that?
Yeah. And it was going to go into caverns that were left from the removal of salt, basically into salt mines. And then as needed, it would be that compressed air would be used to generate electricity that would be shipped to Los Angeles. So. Well,
some of it's going to go to Vegas, you can be sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Vegas is very near where the electricity is going. Okay, we should go on, I think. What do you think?
Friday, June 23rd, coming right up.
Yeah, that's what it is. Now, this is one of the most dull and at the same time most exciting articles I have read. It comes from Clean Technica.
Cool roof technology could eliminate billions of tons of carbon dioxide.
Yeah, while the world frantically pushes EVs to reduce carbon emissions and scientists research geoengineering strategies, here's a technique that's already available, quite inexpensive, and it could offset the carbon emissions of 30 million cars and trucks. Just think about that for a minute. 30 million.
My thing says 300 million.
Oh, I'm sorry, 300 million. You're right. I'm wrong. Just think
That's
about
a lot of cars and trucks.
that's gigatrucks and cars. It's like it's like gigawatts. This is
Yeah,
cars.
giga trucks, right? Well, just for what it's worth, a cool roof is a roofing system that delivers higher solar reflectance,
Yes.
reducing the heat transfer into the building.
Yeah. And the picture kind of shows that. This is boring. Paint your roof white. What's exciting about that? And what's exciting about the prospect of removing the equivalent of 300 million cars from the road? Crazy.
Yeah, isn't it?
Isn't it?
Oh, it makes sense. It does. I mean, paint the roof white. It's already.
Yeah, absolutely. So, our next item that is coming up.
This is a good picture. It's a very pretty picture.
I think so. Yeah. This picture is from IRENA, which is the International Renewable Energy Agency, which is, I believe, a UN agency. Pardon me. And it's from Offshore Engineer magazine.
And it says, and I quote, IRENA, annual renewable power additions must triple by 2030.
In the World Energy Transitions Outlook 2023, the International Renewable Energy Agency calls for raised global ambitions for renewables.
That's IRENA, by the way.
That's IRENA. Some progress has been made, but the gap between what is achieved and what is required keeps growing longer. There was an article that came up today, and we will talk about it on Thursday. China is installing solar panels so fast that if everybody else in the world stopped altogether, the number of solar panels in the world would increase by 85% in the next 2.5 years.
That's almost double.
Yeah. And,
Wow.
So IRENA is saying we need to do it faster, and China is doing it faster. What we need to do in the United States is do it faster in the United States, because we're not going to have energy security until we've got energy security. And energy security is not from fossil fuels.
For sure.
Yeah.
Put the picture up again. That's a pretty picture.
That's a pretty picture. That is a very pretty picture. I put it up again for everybody. Okay. We should
Moving right along, we got an interesting picture of Twiggy.
Twiggy. This does not look like any Twiggy I knew when I was a kid.
Well, he's Twiggy Forrest for Rescue Future Industries, and he cuts loose on hydrogen.
That's right. Dr. Andrew Twiggy Forrest said that Fortescue Future Industries will invest tens of billions of dollars in hydrogen projects in the United States, partly as a result of the Inflation Reduction Act. For the sake of investors, FFI, which is Fortescue Future Industries, will concentrate in the American market in short to medium term, and that's because they get the Inflation Reduction Act, which was a Biden administration thing, made the United States quite possibly the most attractive place in the world to invest in renewable technology.
Well, we're also coming along in technology that makes hydrogen more useful or more easy to use, and similar to hydrogen is ammonia.
Yes, they're all related. Okay, we're going to go on, and we have a picture of what?
Moving right along.
That's right. We have a picture of a solar farm, which
How about that?
How about that, from the American Public Power Association, and that's the American. Yeah, the American Public Power Association provides a lot of photographs. If you want photographs for renewable energy, and you go to Unsplash, and American Public Power Association has got just a lot of photographs. Unsplash.com. Okay, this is from Swiss Info.
It's interesting because it's kind of an old-fashioned picture because the newer picture's going to have things growing under those towers.
Well, we're going to get to that, and I want to mention
Let's face it, before it, it's the future.
Yeah.
Photovoltaics.
Yeah. When we get to another photograph, another article in very soon, there will be a photograph of PVs out in a farm field, and they're not lined up like this. And what the article is talking about is PVs lined up like this. So just kind of remember this.
Well, we'll talk about that because it's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if we said it or not, so I'm going to say it again.
Okay.
Government wants to speed up construction of renewable energy plants.
Right. The Swiss government has approved a plan to speed up construction of solar, wind, and hydroelectric stations to reduce Switzerland's dependence on foreign suppliers. The bill needs to be approved by the parliament, which the government hopes will happen this summer. Okay?
Well, Switzerland is a pretty place, but it doesn't have a lot in the way of natural resources. There ain't no coal in Switzerland.
There's no coal, and I don't know how much. I know Switzerland has hydroelectric. In fact, they have stuff that's really kind of remarkable because in some cases they have the hydro dam and the reservoir up near the top of a mountain, and the place where the generators are is down at the bottom, and they can have a 50,000 watt generator, which is only 6 feet across.
Wow.
Yeah, and the reason is because there's so much pressure behind that.
I'm going to say there's an awful lot of energy in that water that's going down.
There's a lot, yeah. Okay. All right, our next picture is a picture of threads in a loom.
Looks like that to me.
Yeah, I would have guessed it just looking at the picture. I would have guessed, yeah, that looks like a loom. Okay, this is from CNN.
1/5 of water pollution comes from textile dyes, but a shellfish-inspired solution could clean it up. This is it.
Fascinating.
Came from CNN.
Yeah. Every year, the textile industry uses 1.3 trillion gallons of water to dye garments. Most of this water, loaded with harmful chemicals and dyes, flows untreated into rivers and streams. Researchers have found a way to address the problem. Now,
Well, that's a good sign because I think this is even happening in Vermont.
Oh, yeah, it might be. Yeah, absolutely. The deal here is what they discovered is that the beards of mussels, if you've ever handled a shellfish mussel that was just came from the fish department or the fish store, it has fibers that come out of the end, and that is called the beard.
It looks like
it does. It looks like a shaggy, dark beard. And those fibers are what the mussel uses to attach to a rock. And they are extremely strong, but they attach with an extremely strong glue. And the researchers have been using the technology of that glue to extract the textile dyes.
Okay, gee, that's interesting.
Yeah, isn't it? Okay, should we go on, Tom?
Can't dance.
Okay. You keep mentioning that.
Picture of Bourbon Street.
We have a picture of Bourbon Street. Anybody know where Bourbon Street is?
There's a band on Bourbon Street.
There's a what?
Band. It's musicians.
Oh, yeah. Well, Bourbon Street was important in music. This is from WWL-TV.
Some New Orleans restaurants hope to use solar power to be a community hub after a hurricane.
Yeah. We all hope for a quiet hurricane season, especially after days and weeks without power after Hurricane Ida. But when another storm knocks out power, some New Orleans restaurants will stay open because they have solar power and Tesla batteries.
That's an interesting concept.
Yeah, it is. I have at home, I've got different backup systems, some of which I could actually loan somebody, but they're just a small solar panel with a USB port to provide electricity for charging a cell phone. Or
like when the grid goes down.
That's right. I've got another one which is a little bit bigger and can actually operate lights. And then I've got another one that can operate something more heavy duty for a while.
That's interesting because the grid went down right here, about 2 weeks ago for a couple of days. And it didn't go out at your place, which is a half a mile away.
Well, closer than that, actually.
Closer than that,
Yeah.
even.
Yeah. But, you know, I have been, people find it difficult to believe this, but
I was without power, and I'm useless without power. Well, I'm useless with power, but
there have been four
without
times.
power, I'm helpless.
Yeah. There have been 4 times in my life when I have been in a storm that caused me to lose power for over a week. And
Wow.
that is not fun.
No, I don't think.
The second 2 times, I had a gasoline-powered generator, which was big enough to supply me with the power I needed for the refrigerator, the furnace, and in the house I was in. And
And your electric toothbrush.
but you know, it's not fun to run a gasoline turbine 8 hours a day. Now the rest of the day I was without power, but you know, I was able to survive on this thing of getting out, turning on the generator, and just keeping it going.
Well, you got the noise and you got the pollution.
You have but the thing that was really bad was the noise. It was that constant noise right next to the house was very disheartening. Okay, we're up to Sunday, June 25th, and we have a picture of a fishing boat. Would you like to go fishing?
A fishing boat to me.
What's that?
Looks like a fishing boat to me.
I think it is. I think they were not fibbing when they said that this was a fishing boat. Anyway, this is from Clean Technica.
Well, the World Bank decries disastrous fossil fuel agriculture and fishery subsidies.
Yes. The World Bank...
Rightfully so.
Yeah, the World Bank issued a scathing report called Detox Development, Repurposing Environmentally Harmful Subsidies, that calls for reducing or eliminating the trillions upon trillions of dollars, that's big dollars, governments use to prop up fossil fuel agriculture and fishing industries. And those subsidies total about $7 trillion a year worldwide. It's something like 8% of the gross global product.
Wow.
It's just incredible.
That's pretty suspicious to me. I wonder who's the end gaining from those subsidies.
Yeah, it would be. I think we have to close that down. If you believe in a free market, you don't believe those subsidies are a good idea. And I'm a little bit shy of believing in a free market. I don't think that full-blown capitalism, the way that some people want it, is a good idea. You know, the idea that
We don't really have free markets. We say we do, but they're not really free.
Well, you know, I've had friends who were enamored of Ayn Rand and stuff like that, and they want to make everything private. So they say, we want to privatize everything. Nothing should be, if it belongs to the government, it's socialist. So the park is socialist, and the streets are socialist, and the library and the schools and the police and the prisons and so forth are all socialist. And I say
socialist, that's a bad word.
Yeah, they make it a bad word, and I mean really a nasty word. What's wrong with socialism? The Russian Revolution. Wait a minute, that was in Russian. It was 100 years ago. It's, you know, it'll come back if you allow socialism in. But do you really want the street in front of your house that you use to get to wherever you want to go to belong to some business that can lose track of your payments and say you can't use it until you pay?
I can see it now. They got a toll to use the street I live on.
What do you really want that? Or you can walk down the street to the park, but you got to pay a toll to get into the park. I'm sorry. And I've known people who
Makes sense to me.
Yeah. I've known people who have lived in places where streets have been privatized, and it really doesn't help. Okay, and honestly, private business, I don't think private business is any better than government for getting things done. The idea is you want to make government as small as possible. Okay, let's do that. But let's make private business as small as possible too.
Interesting.
Yeah, well, Tom, I used to live in Winchester, New Hampshire, and there was a nice little bank there called the Winchester National Bank. It had been around since the I think Andrew Jackson was president when it was founded. And then it got gobbled up by a county bank. And then it got gobbled up by a state bank. And then it got gobbled up by another bank. And then it got gobbled up by another bank. And by the time we were done, that little building, which you can see in the middle of Winchester, it's a beautiful little kind of classic building with 4 columns in front. It's white. It's a beautiful little building. And they're using it for some kind of storage now. And that little building used to have people work in it who I knew by their first names. Do I know anybody at the bank by the first name? No. Okay, should we go on, Tom?
It is.
Okay.
A wonderful picture. What are those funny-looking things?
Oh, I think those are solar panels, Tom. What do you think? I think there's solar panels on somebody's flat roof, to tell you the truth.
Well, the article might explain it a little bit.
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea.
Chinese solar module prices plunge to record lows.
Yeah, this is from a publication called Innovation Origins. Chinese solar module panels have reached their lowest value ever, with the Chinese module marker falling for a 4th week in a row at 17.3 cents per watt. We were fighting not very many years ago to get below $1 per watt. The Chinese module marker saw an unprecedented 11.37 week-on-week plunge, marking the largest percentage drop in history. And why is that happening? Well, India is bringing solar panel manufacturing online. Europe is starting to start up solar panel making. The United States.
They're even doing some of that in the United States.
In the United States. All of the stuff is being done, and this is, again, largely because of the Inflation Reduction Act. The cost of solar panels are going to be more widely available. And the Chinese are using them like mad, but they're also manufacturing well over 50% of the solar panels used worldwide. And in fact, it wasn't that long ago that it was well over 80%.
Wow.
And they're going to have to use up their solar panels or close down factories because the work is moving abroad. So, more?
Solar panels make an awful lot of sense.
Yes, they do. Okay, we have a picture of a Tesla Model Y. I'll put it up so people can see it.
It looks nice, but it looks like so many other cars.
All of these cars all look alike. I'd like to have an electric car that would have a range of 500 miles, could go 75 miles per hour. Why would I want to go faster than 75 miles per hour? And I would like it to look like a Stutz Bearcat.
That's interesting.
Or maybe a Model A Ford,
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. Okay, this article is from Clean Technica.
RWD LFP Tesla Model Y could slash price by $4,850, driving U.S. sales to the next level.
Yeah, when I saw this title, I just thought, RWD LFP Tesla Model Y? What
That
language?
means rear-wheel drive, doesn't it?
Yeah, RWD means rear wheel drive, and LFP means lithium ferrophosphate.
Aha.
And so they're talking about rear wheel drive with this lithium battery that does not have cobalt and nickel in it. So it's a newer technology. It's safer in terms of fire.
Direction.
What?
It's a step in the right
Yeah, I
direction.
think it is. Okay, let me read the synopsis. The net price of the Tesla Model Y has been cut. A standard range version is here, and paperwork done for a full tax incentive. Now, Tesla has approval for new rear-wheel drive Model Y using LiFePO4, what they call LiFePO4, lithium ferrophosphate, LFP, batteries that will likely be very affordable. Okay.
Things are moving in the right direction, aren't
Yeah,
they?
they are. They are. They're just moving along. And should I go to the next item, Tom?
Can't dance.
Okay.
That Monday, June 26th already.
Yeah, we're just cruising through this week, aren't we? Okay. This is the
Solar panels to me.
this is the picture of solar panels that I talked about at the beginning when I said they weren't lined up. This is a picture of solar panels on a farm, but if you want to think of it, you can picture that type of an array of solar panels where the panels are just lined up in a row. And that is what they're talking about in this article. This is from Clean Technica, and you have a title.
The unstoppable force of agriculture. Now with tiltable solar panels.
That's agrivoltaics, Tom.
Sorry about
That's
that.
okay.
You're absolutely right. Thank you for...
I always tell everybody, personally, I've never made a mistake, but I try to be compassionate to people who do.
Well, agrovoltaics is the way of the future.
Yeah, I think it is.
You're getting dual sources of income.
The farmers struggle to get an income from the crops, and they can be hit hard by bad weather means floods, bad weather means drought, bad weather means too much cloud, bad weather means too cold, bad weather means too hot. They have to have constant, level, predictable weather if they're going to make money. These solar panels, wind turbines, and so forth give them an alternate income, and it can keep our farmers going in an environment that would otherwise shut them down. But let me read the synopsis. Researchers at Purdue University in Indiana came up with a workaround for the tall racks some agrivoltaics use so farmers can drive vehicles under them. It is a software-enabled agrivoltaic array that is mounted close to the ground, so the panels are just tilted to give the vehicle clearance. So they have lines of panels and they tilt them so that they are vertical. They're tilted vertical. So
They need to.
yeah, the tractors don't, or trucks don't drive under them. They drive next to them, and they're so close to the ground that that's not a problem.
So these things tilt to let them go by.
That's right. And you always talk about, well, they're not going to grow corn under these panels. Actually,
They could.
They could grow corn under the panels. But it's just one more thing the farmers can do in modern times to take advantage of technology so that they can make a living.
As I've said many times, it's dual sources of income.
It's dual sources of income. Yeah, that's exactly right. And a lot of farms, they have dual sources of income anyway. When I was a kid, there was a woman who brought us eggs, chicken eggs. And she would deliver, she'd stop her car next to our house and she'd come in and sell my mother a dozen chicken eggs for 80 cents or 70, 50 cents, whatever it was in those days.
Some ridiculous price.
Some ridiculous price, except for one thing. The $50 was actually made of silver. Anyway, she'd come by every once in a while and tell my mother, next Sunday, I'm going to have squab hens. And if my mother wanted to do it, she could buy squab hens and we'd have squab for dinner on Sunday as a special treat. Now, do you know what squab actually is?
No.
Pigeons.
It's pigeons, huh?
It's pigeons.
Uh-huh.
So when people get fancy and they're talking about, having squab for dinner, squab under glass or whatever it is, they're talking about pigeons, except they're not.
Sounds a lot more attractive than pigeons, though.
What's that?
Squab sounds a lot more attractive than pigeons.
It does, doesn't it? But the other thing is, if you're talking about squab, you're talking about domesticated animals. These pigeons are probably not allowed just to fly all over the place and eat whatever they find. Okay, we have a picture here of Montevideo. And Montevideo means I see a mountain.
Huh?
That's what I was told when I was a kid.
Well, it looks like that.
Yeah.
The mountain and video I see. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, but you don't see the mountain in the picture, do you?
That picture it must be taken from the mountain.
No, I think that was probably taken from a plane. The mountain at Montevideo is not very high. The land is very flat. It's like, I knew a girl when I was in college who lived on the Hill in Cape May County, New Jersey. The Hill? Are you kidding me? What's the Hill? The Hill is a 10-foot rise. But if you ask anybody, about where the hill is, they'll give you directions to her house. Okay.
Well, Cape May is kind of flat.
Yeah, Cape May is kind of flat, yeah. Okay, this is from CNN.
Putting salt in tap water and drilling wells in parks. One city's desperate quest to avoid running dry.
Yeah. Grappling with a multi-year drought and high temperatures, Uruguay is running dry. The situation has become so bad that residents are being forced to drink salty tap water, and workers are drilling wells in the center of the capital city. And that's really terrible when you think about it, because people with high blood pressure, stuff like that, and a lot of people have it, are not supposed to drink or use a lot of salt.
Right, they're getting poisoned.
Yeah, and if you drive down Route 3 and you go near the Pisgah Reservoir, there's a big sign there. Is it the Pisgah Reservoir?
I don't know.
There's a big reservoir that supplies water to Boston. It's not Pisgah. It's I forget the name, but there's signs there that say warning. And basically what they're telling you is there's no salt being put down in that area to keep ice off the roads, because the salt would go into the reservoir and ultimately make it into the Boston water system. And they don't want excessive salt in Boston because people drink the water.
Yes.
And here in Uruguay, they're putting salty water into the city water system because they otherwise would run out. This is not good. Okay, move on.
Yeah, let's move on. A nice picture of the sun.
Yeah, this is a rising sun, and I happen to know it's a rising sun because that was a title at Unsplash where it was put. This is from Clean Technica.
New battery storage capacity, 10 times growth. 40 gigawatt hours per year by 2030.
Yeah. Rystad Energy predicted that energy storage installations will surpass 400 gigawatt hours a year. That's installations in the year 2030. That would be nearly 10 times the 43 gigawatt hours added in 2022. This year, 74 gigawatt hours of capacity are expected to be added, which is 72% more than last year. This is just incredible growth. The growth is already underway. So,
it makes sense.
It does. And the thing is, if you pay attention to this, what's being knocked out of the system and replaced by these batteries is natural gas burning power plants that are demand following plants and peaker plants, because the energy from the batteries is much, much, much cheaper. And it's higher quality because it can match demand instantly, and it's more reliable because you don't have to worry about the price, or the availability of the fuel.
Well, we've got to stop burning things, and technology is happening that we don't need burning.
That's right.
Burn things.
That's right. Okay, we're up to Tuesday, June 27th, and we have a picture of a girl in a desert.
What's she doing in the desert there?
She's getting a sunburn.
I guess.
Yeah, but she's...
Extreme heat means 2/3 of North America could suffer blackouts this summer.
Yeah, this is from CNN. Power grid officials have warned that large swaths of the United States could face blackouts if it's a hot summer. Periods of extreme heat stress the grid by spiking demand for electricity for air conditioning to stay cool, just as heat causes problems at power facilities.
You get a double whammy.
Yeah, it's a double whammy. You've got, and I want to comment about this girl. If you look at the background, the reason I put this picture up was not because of the girl. It was because in the background there's a dust devil, which is basically
there is. Yep.
It's kind of like a tornado that is caused by. This is a tornado that happens under a blue sky sometimes, and that's what's happening here. The desert is hot, and the differences in heat and so forth will cause a dust devil, which can be you've heard of an F5 tornado. This is an F0 tornado. It might not even qualify for that because there's a minimum for F0. But it's a whirlwind.
In Saudi Arabia, many people think that the dust devil is an evil being.
Is an evil being?
Yeah.
Well, if you have ever...
they call it an Afrit. A-F-R-I-T, and they consider it a being.
Who does this?
The Saudis.
Okay, and they call it a what?
Afrit. A-F-R-I-T.
A-F-R-I-T. Okay, I believe you.
It's considered to be a being.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, this is, we're worried about extreme heat. And if you've been following the news, you've undoubtedly been seeing stuff about Texas and this heat in Texas, which has not gone away and is just continuing. And the heat is closing down fueled power plants. It's bad. And, just at the time that the demand is up because of air conditioning, the ability of these plants to provide power declines because they need to be cooled. Coal burning, natural gas burning, oil burning, nuclear, all these power plants only produce power at about 35% efficiency. The rest of their energy is heat that has to be dissipated somehow.
Yeah.
They have to be cooled in hot weather. And they fail if their cooling system doesn't work. They will overheat, and that'll destroy them. So that's why the renewable energy is saving Texas. And as a matter of fact, our next item is about that. Let's go to it.
Let's take a look at it.
We have
Looks
a
like
picture.
A cow to me.
What?
Looks like a cow to me.
Yes, that is a cow. Actually, I think it might be a heifer, believe it or not, despite the size of its horns.
It doesn't have much of an udder.
It doesn't have much of an udder. It looks like a heifer udder to me. I'm an expert on heifer udders.
Ah.
I knew heifers well when I was a child. Okay, this is from...
Well, solar power trumps Texas lawmakers as heat wave hits.
Yes, this is from Clean Technica. Texas lawmakers tried to throw a wet blanket on the state's renewable energy industry last month, but they came up short on votes. They should count their blessings. The state's solar power sector is now being hailed as a hero for helping the grid through a hellish heat wave. they haven't been losing power in Texas, even though they've got this horrible heat wave going on, and they've been saved by what? Solar power and wind turbines.
Amazing.
Isn't it? If they hadn't put in all that stuff they put in the last couple of years, they'd be in desperate trouble. Okay, we should probably keep going here, Tom.
Nice picture of smoke from Canada, which, by the way, you could see here in Brattleboro just about a week ago.
And you can see, looking in the lower right corner of the screen here, this is a space picture. You can see the southern half of Spain. You can see Corsica, Sardinia, much of Italy, Sicily, North Africa. This is smoke that is going from the fires in Canada to reaching Europe. What do you?
Oh yeah, I can see all of those places on the map. I didn't recognize them, but there they are. There's Italy.
Yep.
Sardinia, Corsica.
This is from CNN.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you have?
Well, let me quote the title. Canadian wildfire smoke reaches Europe as Canada reports its worst fire season on record.
Yep. Canada has marked its worst fire season on record, with smoke from blazes crossing the Atlantic Ocean reaching Western Europe. Over 18,688,691 acres, which is half the area of New England, have burned, and over half the peak season is still to come.
That's bigger than Vermont and New Hampshire taken together.
That's actually almost as big as Vermont, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Connecticut, and Rhode Island taken together. This is big. And it's bigger than they reported here, but this is several days old. They have thousands of wildfires in Canada, and the Canadians have been sitting there saying, okay, we have to fight this one because there's houses nearby. We're not going to fight that one because nobody lives near it. And they're having a terrible time up there. There are firefighters right now in Canada who volunteered to go there, who are professional firefighters in South Africa.
Wow.
This is how bad it is. So, yeah, we're up to Wednesday, June 28th, and we have a picture of several wind turbines.
I see two anyhow. Oh, no, I can see more than two. Yeah, they're there.
I can see four in that picture. There might be, I can see 5, 6.
They're there.
They're hard. The 2 are easy. Yep, 2 are easy. 2 are a little bit more difficult. 2 of them are very difficult. But this is from EV Wind.
Well, what it says, and I quote, wind farm neighbors are more positive to wind power.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yep. Do all people oppose living near wind farms? Well, when asked, it turned out that those who live closer to turbines have a more favorable view of wind power than people living farther away. This is one of the results which some may find surprising. It's in a recent survey. I've told you about calling up people who lived near the Roscoe Wind Farm in Texas, and just saying, how do you feel about living in a wind farm? Because Roscoe is kind of in the middle of, it's surrounded by a wind farm with over 650, I think it's 683, but I might be wrong about that, but it's like well over 600 turbines.
That's a lot of turbines.
And the one woman said, oh, I never thought about the fact that we live in a wind farm. I suppose we do.
The picture we saw on the show of a hospital with a
that's right.
wind turbine front yard.
That's right. And that one is in Greensburg, Kansas. And it's kind of almost in the middle of the parking lot. To get from parts of the parking lot to the main entrance, you have to walk under that wind turbine. Now, if it gets iced, obviously they've got to furl the turbine, because otherwise people would be put into danger of falling off. But, there it is, a wind turbine right next to the hospital. It's what's it there for? To sing the people to sleep at night. Okay,
Moving right along.
Moving right along, we have a picture of flooding in Wisconsin. And this actually is the floods in Wisconsin.
Well, let's see what they say about it.
Yep.
Extreme floods are happening much more often than federal data would suggest.
Yes, this is from CNN. A critical federal analysis of extreme rainfall is vastly underestimating the chances of flood events with grave implications for everything from new roads and bridges to the rising cost of flood insurance, according to new analysis. And that is not a joke.
They're kind of trying to hide what's really happening.
Well, I think, Tom, the problem is change is happening so quickly that when they put together their data to analyze it, if they don't analyze the change in the rate of change, then they're going to have wrong results.
The change in the rate of change.
Change in the rate of change. It's like acceleration.
Yep.
Years ago, I took a look at the cost of insurance in the United States, and one of the things I looked at the insurance costs for flood insurance from, I think it was 1978 to 2017, and the inflation, changes in the cost of real estate relative to the value of the dollar, the increase in the size of the population, which means you got to have more housing stock, things like that, all together over that time, I would have expected the cost of flood insurance to go up by a factor of 5.5, which means that flood insurance for the same building would cost 5.5 times what it did 40 years earlier. But it didn't go up by a factor of 5.5. It went up by a factor of 47.
Wow.
No. How do you 47? I'm not kidding. And the how do you explain that? Well, if you can explain it with climate change, but I've had people say, well, it's because people are building houses in flood zones. I'm sorry, they've always been building houses in flood zones. They're less likely to now because zoning keeps houses out of flood zones. It's a problem that has to do with climate change. And as long as people are going to resist the idea that climate change is happening, they're going to have problems dealing with that.
Sure.
Okay. We're up to our last story of the day.
Looks like the Great Lakes to me.
It looks like the Great Lakes. This is a remarkably good picture of the Great Lakes, I think. There's
it is a good picture.
Very, very little in the way of clouds there. You can see algae blooms in Lake Erie, and to a certain extent, I think, in Lake Michigan and Lake Huron.
Yeah, look at that.
Yeah. Anyway, that is a NASA image, and the article came from Clean Technica, and you have a title, I am quite sure.
Offshore wind energy opportunities in the 5 Great Lakes.
Yeah, wind resource assessments suggest that the Great Lakes potential capacity is 160 gigawatts for fixed bottom wind turbines and 415 gigawatts for floating wind energy systems. The potential for wind energy exceeds the annual electricity consumption in 5 of the 8 states on the Great Lakes. Now, some of those...
That's almost 600 gigawatts.
That's right. Now, I would think that, what states are excluded from that? Well, New York is on the Great Lakes. So is Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Illinois. They're all on the Great Lakes. And I think that their power demands would be possibly, Ohio is there, but it's smaller than those, I think. Indiana obviously is smaller. Wisconsin has got a smaller demand. Minnesota has got a smaller demand. But, we're guessing about what states that have big, big power demands could be fully powered by the Great Lakes. This is kind of mind-boggling. Wouldn't you say?
You don't think of the Great Lakes as power support, as a source of...
We had that little wind farm off the coast of Cleveland. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
And the big deal there was that the ice could push the turbine around. So how do you protect that turbine from ice? And they were experimenting to find out if that could be done. So that's...
Could it be done or not? You don't know. We don't know.
Yeah. So how's that, Tom? Is that enough for you? Are you happy? We've got lots of opportunities.
Well, you finished talking about that one, and it saddens me, but there ain't no more today. It says fini.
It says fini. By the way, before we go, I should mention that I met a fellow in the pharmacy, and we got into a very pleasant conversation about this show, and he gave me his email address on a slip of paper, and I lost it. So if you're watching and your name is Gary and you wonder why I didn't contact you, the reason is because despite my disclaimer saying I don't make mistakes, I do make mistakes very often, and I happen to have lost that. So if you want to contact me by email, please do. You can do it through the station. I'm a little hesitant to give out my personal email on the air, because this show, actually, I don't know how many people watch this show, but it's downloaded by a bunch of stations. Anyway,
this country, we've had people respond from England.
Yeah, from the UK, we've had from England and Scotland and elsewhere around the world. So it's, and I think there's 40 stations that it's downloaded at. I think Morning View, California is one. Certainly Oradell, New Jersey always downloads the show. Hello, Oradell. I've been in Oradell. And
I'm sure I have as well. I don't.
Oradell is, it's one of those towns that's not far from the George Washington Bridge, and it's the area of it that I was in was a very pleasant place. So there you go. Anyway, we should say goodbye. I'll put this thing up. It says, "Have a fantastically convenient week." That's kind of insipid, isn't it? Silly wish for people. Nevertheless, there it is. I'm waving goodbye. I happen to know for a fact that Tom waves goodbye. Are you waving?
I'm waving goodbye too, but my cat's not here to help me wave.
Well, the cat comes in and waves his tail, but Tom waves his hand. The cat doesn't have a hand. He has a paw, but he waves his tail.
I don't know where he is. He's not sitting down next. Oh, I can see his ears. There he is. He's hiding on me.
Yeah, there you go. Goodbye, everybody. Have a good week.